When it comes to running a business, any business, there are really only three ways to increase revenue in that business. Number one, you can sell your product for more money. Number two, you can increase the volume of products you sell, right? You can sell more. Or number three, you could sell a variety of different products. Now, in the restaurant industry, right, that means we increase average guest spend, or we get more butts in the seats, or we sell different products, usually meaning different day parts, right? So breakfast, lunch, dinner are all different products. Catering, private dining are different products. Merchandise, retail, those are different products, right? So we can increase the average guest spend. We can get more covers in the front door, or we can get our covers to come back and buy different products from us, right? There are really only three ways to increase revenue. And in a full service capacity, in a full service restaurant, there are really only 4 points in the meal to increase revenue. I know we like to think that there's a lot of things that a server or bartender can do to impact the amount of revenue in the restaurant, but there's really only 4 opportunities. Over the course of this presentation, I want to show you the 4 different ways. Number one, it's on first approach. Number two, it's when we take the order. Number three, it's when we drive second beverage sales. More on that by the end of this video. And number four, it's what I call the turnaround between entrees and desserts, right? There are really only 4 opportunities we have to do it. And when it comes to increasing revenue in your restaurant, there's one way that works better than anything else, and that is to increase second beverage sales. So over the course of this presentation, I want to walk you through all of them, make sure we're looking at this problem properly so that we can build a plan, scripts, tactics that actually work. You ready? All right, here we go. All right, so the number one way to increase revenue in your restaurant. First things first, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chip Klose. I am the host of the Restaurant Strategy Podcast, author of the Restaurant Marketing Mindset, and founder of something called the P3 Mastermind. It's a group coaching program where we help independent restaurant owners increase profits in their restaurant. If you want to learn more about that, you click the link below, watch a quick video. You can sign up for a call with me or someone from my team. Really quick, before we go any further, if you haven't done so already, make sure to hit the link below to subscribe so you'll be notified every time we put out a new video. We put out regular videos every single week. Here we go. When we talk about anything in coaching, it starts with systems and goals, right? So what is a system? What is a goal? A goal is a clear articulation of what you're actually trying to accomplish. A system, then, is just a repeatable set of actions. That's it. Put another way, a goal says we got to go from point A to point B. A system says, how are we going to do it? We've got to do X, Y, and Z to go from point A to point B. It's as simple as that. Before we do anything, we got to figure out where we're trying to go. Right? In order to set proper goals, we have to use the SMART goal framework. SMART, it's an acronym, right? It means specific, measurable, assignable, relevant, and time-bound. If a goal is specific, we can measure it. We can determine whether we succeeded or not. If it's assignable, we know that somebody's accountable, somebody's responsible for making it happen. If it's relevant, meaning it's relevant to the success of the business. Followers are not relevant to the success of the business. Revenue, profit, those things are relevant to the success of the business. And then finally, time-bound. Everything needs a deadline, right? If I say, hey, we want to increase check average by $10, when? Over the course of the next quarter, the next year, the next decade, right? It's a lot different. It changes the framework. And when you make somebody responsible and you give them a deadline to make it happen, it changes everything in your business. Every goal needs to have the SMART goal framework. Great. So in order to figure out where we're going, we first have to figure out where we are now. That's point A. And then we need a vision for where we're going. Point B, right? So great leaders are visionaries. They tell us where we're going. They point in a direction and get everybody rowing in the same direction. Though rowing in the same direction is the system. That's what we do to make it happen. We need to understand where we're at and where we are going, right? When we do that, we can put a plan into place to get us from point A to point B, meaning I put 6 people on a boat and I tell them to row in the same direction and row all together so they're not fighting against each other. That, as it turns out, is a pretty powerful thing to figure out. Great. Before we dive into the details here, we have to understand the difference between macro and micro. Both are crucial, but you can't have one without the other. Macro means I want to increase revenue in my restaurant from $1.2 million to $1.5 million this year. Fine, that's great. I agree. If you say that's a healthy goal worth attaining, then I'll agree with you. What you need to do, though, is to break it down to its smallest possible unit, because your managers, your servers, your bartenders do not understand 1.2 to 1.5. What they have to understand is, what do I need to do this week, this shift? What do I need to do on this table? When you break it down to micro and you show them what you need them to do, right? The way we're going to go from 1.2 to 1.5 is by increasing the average guest spend from $50 a head to $55 a head. Then they can be focused on what they need to do minute to minute over the course of a meal to increase the average guest spend from $50 to $55. When you help them see that, they will do what you need them to do so much more successfully. Great. So here's the playbook, right? We're going to focus. The way we're going to grow revenue is we're going to focus on check average. And I already let the cat out of the bag. So only 4 points in the meal that we can actually do this. I'm going to talk to you how to make an impact in all 4, and I'm going to spend a meaningful amount of time, most of the time here over this presentation, over the course of this video, talking about second beverage sales. Here we go. When it comes to fast casual or quick service, right? Just so you know, there's really only one opportunity, right? And that is to get one additional thing on the check that the guest didn't already have on their mind. So here, would you like fries with that? So you got to figure out what they're already coming in for and sell them something else. McDonald's does brilliantly way back in the 70s when they invented the line, would you like fries with that? They said, everybody's coming in for a burger and a soft drink. Some people get fries, or many people get fries, but not all the people. So they built that line in, would you like fries with that? And eventually they upgraded that to the value meals. They said, well, we can just make it seem like they get a deal if they order everything. What they were doing is making sure that they were getting a certain amount of guest spend, that everybody who walked in was going to get a burger, a soft drink, and fries, right? So in a fast casual or quick service setting, there's really only one opportunity. You got to figure out one thing to sell them. Would you like fries with that? Or the guacamole at Chipotle, or the Frosty at Wendy's, right? Every good restaurant has something that they do at this level. You just have to figure out what it is for you, and don't make it too complicated. In a full service restaurant, I said there are only 4 opportunities. That's first approach, when you take the order, when you drive second beverage sales, and then finally what I call the turnaround from entrees to dessert. In order to walk you through this playbook, there are 4 areas we're going to cover. We're going to spend most of the time talking about second beverage sales. I'm going to give you a little something, a little nugget, a couple little nuggets here to help you with all these. In order to do this, we got to talk about Elaine. Elaine is a brilliant artist, and she makes pottery and all that. A million years ago, she and I worked together in my very first restaurant that I ever waited tables at in New York City. It was right in Times Square, and I learned a ton from her. Number one, she's just super cool and really good at her job and really passionate and all that. I think she's passionate just about anything she does. Way back when, she was really good. She had these scripts at different points in the meal. So the first approach trick, right? So sometimes what Elaine would do is she would quote unquote forget to present menus on first approach. She would use something like this script. Hi, everyone. So sorry, I was stuck at another table and I didn't want you to keep you waiting any longer. I'll be back in a minute with menus, but I wanted to see if I could start you off with a cocktail or a glass of champagne, something from the bar. What can I get for you? And what she would do is she would look at somebody. When she was giving that little speech, that little spiel, she'd be looking for, quote unquote, the thirstiest person at the table, right? Basically, by not bringing menus to the table, right? And P.S., when we greeted tables in that restaurant, we had to bring menus, a wine list, and a cocktail list, right? What happens is when you start giving everybody menus and a wine list, everybody starts diving into their reading material. And it makes it really hard to get them to answer the question you actually want answered, which is, what can I start you with? What can I get you from the bar? See, the best way to get a second beverage sale, which we're going to talk about, is to get the first drink on the table ASAP. Elaine knew this. In fact, Elaine would get in trouble a lot because we had secret shoppers and we had to greet the table a certain way with a certain script. And half the time she would screw it. She would do this script. She'd go over and say, again, I'm so sorry. I was stuck at another table. I'm going to be right back with your menus, but I wanted to see if I could get you something from the bar. Who'd like a cocktail or a glass of champagne or some wine? Sir, what would you like? She knew that the best way to get a second beverage on the table is to get a first beverage on the table as soon as possible. Because the sooner they get it, the sooner they can consume it, the sooner they're ready for another one. This is crucial. It's going to tie directly into what we talk about in a few minutes. The next, Elaine had this, when she would take the order, she had this trick. She would always recommend an app or an entree for the center of the table. Here was her basic script. Listen, I got everyone's order, but it looks like no one got the risotto. You know, you really shouldn't miss that dish. Can I make a recommendation? You should order the risotto and just put it in the middle of the table just so everyone can get a taste. What do you think? It didn't matter what she recommended. She just knew she would always recommend something for the center of the table. Oh, it looks like nobody ordered this. You can't miss this dish. I'd recommend putting it right in the middle of the table. When you do that, it is insane. 9 out of 10 tables would be like, oh yeah, we came here because we really want to experience everything that's great here. Throw that in the middle of the table. People like good food. When you tell them they can have good food, they'll like that. All right. Here is the second beverage trick. And again, we're just going to spend a lot of time doing this, but Elaine would hold off firing entrees to ensure that she would get a second bottle of wine. Now, listen, there are statistics, and we're going to go through this, but timing and framing matters a great deal when it comes to getting that second beverage on the table. Again, we're going to spend much more time in just a minute talking about that. Last thing I want to talk about is what I call the turnaround, the dessert trick. So Elaine and I worked together in Times Square. It was all about the pre-theater turn, and this is how she turned her tables and got the dessert sale. P.S. This is what she taught me. She would use this script while clearing the table. She'd go over and say, hey, listen, I know you've got to get to a show, but you really shouldn't leave without getting dessert. We have 1 or 2 signatures. She would make something up. She's like, we have 2 signatures, and I always recommend at least getting 1 or both of those, just putting them in the middle of the table. She knew it was probably a large lift to get people to each get a dessert. And what happened is that if she clears the table, crumbs the table, brings dessert menus, lets them think about it, then goes back, gets the order, it's adding all this time that these people didn't have because they got to make the theater. So what she did is while she's clearing the table, she's like, listen, there are these 2 desserts. I always recommend getting 1 of those or both of them for the center of the table. I know you got a show to get to, but I can get it out pretty quick. What do you think? And then oftentimes, and again, I took over this script, oftentimes you get somebody say, oh yeah, I'm stuffed, but yeah, let's just do 1 of those in the center of the table. So she'd clear the stuff, come back, set them up with silverware for the dessert, and she'd say, hey, kitchen's working on that. Can I get you some coffee, espresso, tea, something to enjoy with your dessert? See, the key is we're not actually after the dessert sale, that $10 to $15 dessert. What we're really after are the coffee drinks, the bourbon, the scotch, the dessert wine. We're after the beverages. Because if they've already locked themselves into being here for another 15 or 20 minutes to enjoy dessert, well, they might as well have something else to drink, some coffee to wake them up before they go to the show, or another glass of wine to pair with that, or a scotch, because man, I really love scotch. You're not after the $12 dessert. You're after the $6 cappuccinos times 4. You're after the bourbon for $18, the scotch for $28. That's what you're after. So don't be an idiot here. Just because you want to turn your table, and by the way, Elaine would turn her tables faster than anyone else in that pre-theater turn. I watched her. I learned how to do it. I would turn my tables, and in turn, you'd get a full second seating. See, at the restaurant, we'd be packed for pre-theater, packed for post-theater, but the restaurant would only fill up halfway at that 8 o'clock seating. The way to get a full seating is to have the first tables open and reset and ready to be resat. You don't do that by brushing people out of it, I promise, because if they're like, well, we don't have to be at the theater yet, let's just sit, and they camp until they have to. So what you do is you do that turnaround from entrees to dessert, you get something on there, and then you clear them quickly. I promise you, you'll turn tables faster and generate more money per table. Right, this is really important to understand. You turn the tables in your first 15 minutes, not the last 15 minutes. So at the end, they've already set up this pace, and they're looking at their watch. Oh, we don't have to be back for the babysitter yet. Oh, the movie doesn't start yet. Oh, the show doesn't start quite yet. You cue them with confidence, right? Every step of the way, you tell them what comes next, all the way back to first approach, right? So you think about Elaine's script. Hi, I'm so sorry I was stuck at another table. I'll be right over with menus in a second, but I wanted to get you something from the bar, right? Menus come next. Don't worry, I got you. I just want to know what you want to drink. And then after that, she said, great, let me get the bartender working on these. Again, I'll be right back with the menus. Water for the table. Would you like bottled water or tap water, right? Everything was a sales opportunity. Then she comes back with the menu, said, here are the menus. I'm going to go get your drinks from the bar. I'll bring those to you, and then I'll answer any questions you have about the menu. She tells people what is going to happen next. Again, it's something I learned from her. You have to keep cueing them, let them know. You set the pace. And really in the first 15 minutes, when you greet the table, get water for the table, bring drinks to the table, explain the menu, take the order, that's where you set the pace for the meal. That determines how quickly this table will or won't turn. You turn tables in the first 15 minutes, not the last 15 minutes. When you get your servers dialed into that, it'll be a whole new restaurant. You'll make 15, 20% more revenue in the year ahead. All right? So then here, I promise you, the number one way to increase revenue in your restaurant, it's to focus on second beverage sales, right? Listen, I'm not talking about third, fourth, fifth beverages. I'm talking about second beverages. Most people come out to a restaurant want that second drink. It's simply a lack of attentiveness, I believe, that keeps us from capturing the sale. So keep your people attentive, right? How do we get people to do what we need them to do? We focus on table maintenance, but not like this, right? This is what we call the Jersey claw, where you stick your fingers in all the glasses. It's disgusting. People put their mouths all over that. Do not do this. Pick them up regularly, put them on a tray, bring them back. But by focusing on table maintenance, right? What happens is when they're almost done their drink, you go over and say, hey, looks like you're almost finished with your glass of wine, and you get them another one. Or when they're finished, say, it looks like you're finished with your beer, and you get them another one. By focusing on table maintenance, making sure there are never dead glasses. So here, look, it's like the end of the meal. They're clearing all this stuff up from the table, but most of those glasses are, at least half of them, are dead. They could have been removed a while ago. It's called pre-bussing, right? When you focus on table maintenance, getting rid of that dead glassware, it becomes obvious that they don't have something to drink and they need something to drink. Here is the math I want to walk you through. Let's say in this mythical restaurant, right, this fictional restaurant, the average drink is $10. Obviously, we know cocktails and wine are going to be more, beer is probably going to be less. Let's say it averages out to 10. $10 is the average cost for a drink. Let's say each server has 4 tables in their station. Let's say they do 2 turns. So each server is going to wait on 8 tables every night, right? As an average. If they get one additional drink, not a round of drinks, but just one additional drink on every table, that's $80 in additional revenue, right? And that might not sound like a lot, but if there are 5 servers scheduled that night, that turns into $400, which again, that might not sound like a lot. But when you multiply it over the course of the year, that's almost $150,000 in additional revenue. If you're a $1.5 million restaurant, I've just shown you a way to add 10% to your top line revenue. And I don't think anybody watching this video would kick 10% additional revenue out of bed. This is how you generate an additional $150,000. Here's what you're going to do. Here's how you're going to get them to do it. You ask your servers, hey, how many people want to make an additional $4,000 next year? I would hope that all of their hands will shoot up. Here's how this math works. If the server gets $80 per night in additional income, they make 20% of that because they get tipped. That's $16 a night. That might not sound like a lot, but if they work 5 shifts a night, that's $80. $80 times 50 weeks, because we're going to assume they take 2 weeks off, it's $4,000. You just gave them a $4,000 raise simply by showing them how to work smarter, not by working more shifts, by coming in early or closing or working, overtime, just by maximizing the time that they're already there. You've just got them focused on this. That's how you make them an additional $4,000. It is literally a win-win-win, right? So the guest wins because they get what they wanted, which is another drink. You win because you're making more revenue. And they win because they're getting a raise, not having to work anymore. It is a win-win-win. Here are the 2 secrets when it comes to second beverage sales. It's all about timing and framing, right? So it's a matter of when you ask, and it's a matter of how you ask. Here, timing, this is really important. 80% failure rate versus 60% success rate. This is an experiment that's been duplicated a bunch of times. I have done it unofficially, but when you have a bottle of wine on the table, right? If the entrees have hit the table and you pour out the bottle of wine and you try to offer a second bottle of wine, 80% of people, right? So 4 out of 5 tables will decline that second bottle of wine. But if you pour out that wine before entrees have hit the table and you ask them if they would like a second bottle of wine, 3 out of 5 tables, or 60%, will say yes. So simply by focusing on when you offer it, you got either an 80% failure rate or a 60% success rate. This goes back to that statistic way back when, many slides ago, which Elaine knew. She would hold fires on her tables, especially if they had like an expensive bottle of wine, $300, $400, $500 bottle of wine. She's like, I want another, because on a $500 bottle of wine, assuming they tip 20%, it's $100. So if she can hold the fire just a little bit so she can pour out the wine and get another one ordered, she knows she made another $100 just by managing the timing. Timing matters. The other thing is framing. We don't ask yes or no questions. We do ask this or that questions, right? By that, I mean, when somebody's finished your drink, you don't go over and say, sir, I see you're finished. Can I bring you another? Nope. That's a 50-50 chance of them saying no. Would you like another means either yes or no. And we don't want to give them the chance. So instead, frame it as a this or that question. Sir, I see you're finished with your glass of white. Did you want to move on to red? Sir, I see you're finished with your old fashioned. Did you want to move on to a beer? I see whatever it is, you just offer this or that. Not yes or no, this or that. You do this and it will absolutely change your restaurant. Remember, when it comes to revenue in any business, we can either sell the product for more money. In the restaurants, that's increasing average guest spend. We can either get more butts and seats, right? Sell more of the product, or we can sell a variety of different products. And when it comes to a full service restaurant, there are really only 4 opportunities that a server has to impact the average guest spend. And that's on first approach, when we take the order, when we focus on second beverage sales before entrees have hit the table, and then finally, that turnaround between entrees and dessert. And I'll talk about a lot of these in greater depth the further we go along, but it's important for you to understand this. Now, the way to capitalize on what I'm telling you is to understand the strategy, build tactics and scripts, and to pound those into your servers. Make sure they understand these opportunities and to amend your steps of service to make sure to take all this into account. Listen, I appreciate you guys being here. I hope you get a lot out of these videos. Go watch some more videos. Again, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. You'll be notified every time there's a new video. If you don't watch the Restaurant Strategy Podcast, make sure to do that. That link is below in the caption. And also, if you want to learn more about the mastermind program I run, the P3 Mastermind, group coaching where we help independent restaurant owners make a consistent, predictable 20% return, then click the link below. Grab time on the calendar. It's absolutely free. We'll get to know each other. If you're a good fit, we'll talk. We'll get you into the program. If you're not, at least we're in each other's orbit, and hopefully you come away learning a little bit more about your business after that conversation. Appreciate you guys. Thanks very much. See you next time.